Hello and welcome to 2021. Let's hope it gets better from here on in. Welcome to a Honda CB200 video, and in this video we're going to have a look at the wiring loom and the handlebar switches, in particular the differences between UK models and European, French and US versions, and the CB200B and the CB200T. We're also going to have a look at some tools if there's time, and hopefully get started on a new wiring project on the front indicators, as the wiring there is shot on the motorbike. So let's have a look at the loom first and go from there. So one of the comments I had from the previous video or so was that someone had a spare wire, two spare wires. It's common to have a green spare, so this is the wiring loom, the main wiring loom harness coming from up on the bike, and it's common to have a green, let's find a green wire spare, not plugged into anything. I've seen that before on the bike. There you are, there's the green wire there, so possibly one of those free. But they commented that they had a white and green wire free as well. Now there is no white and green wire on the bike. We'll have a look at the wiring diagram later on. The white wire that there is this one, and I don't know how well it will show up, but it's a white wire with a yellow band. There's another yellow cable, which is this yellow cable, and so this yellow cable and the white and yellow cable, now these come from the alternator and are part of the charging system, and if you track these wires down, they come through in the loom. And if you fiddle back in here, here is the plug, and then in here then are the white and yellow, sort of a green and red and a brown, and then they travel off into the stator, into the charger. I'd really recommend that if you're doing anything on the wiring harness, firstly, I am no expert, and as I said in previous videos, I have melted a loom before, so please do your research on this. This is my practical working knowledge, which is limited, but I'd really recommend, if you're doing anything on your loom, on the wiring, etc., is to get yourself something like a voltmeter. They are really affordable to get. You can get these cheaper ones, etc. I've got a more expensive one that I use inside. It's a digital multimeter that can do continuity, which is this. Yeah, they are this setting here, and that allows you to check passage of current through the two probes. So you can put one probe on one end of the wire. Back to the wires. So you can put one end on the end of your wire here. I would always check it to earth, check it to the ground, to earth on the frame, just to make sure it's not shorting anywhere, and then you can disconnect those sockets and start probing, make sure and see if you've got continuity between this wire and the wire coming out there. So same color and connectivity. If you want to be really pedantic with it, you should disconnect other bits and bobs that are on here, so your switch, the regulator and rectifier that are down here, etc., and then you can start playing with your wiring and seeing where the wires go and what they do, etc. The other thing to pay attention to is your wiring loom. So let's look at that briefly. So the wiring loom on the CB200, part number I'll show below, is standard throughout all models, throughout all editions, throughout time. It appears to be the same wiring loom. The place where it changes is where this connects in the headlight, and that's where the main changes are on the headlight and the handlebar switching. So if we pop across to the desk bench, we'll have a look at that. Now, another really important addition to your toolkit is a wiring diagram, and depending on which model you have will depend on which wiring diagram you want to or you'll need to refer to, and this is where it can be a little bit tricky. I found this wiring diagram online for the CB200T. My bike is not a CB200T. We then have this workshop manual for the motorbike, and back here is the wiring diagram for the CB200 and the CL200, and this wiring diagram is for the US version. I'm not quite sure what year. I'll double check and I'll try and pop it below, but this is not the UK version, and we'll talk about the differences in a minute. And then we have Haynes and their wiring diagram. So it's in the back in the additions, and this is the wiring diagram for the UK version, and this is the version I've got, but there is an error in this wiring diagram, which actually dates back to the original Honda workshop manual, and we'll look at that in a moment. Don't be daunted by wiring diagrams. They can look a bit of a mess, they can be hard to follow sometimes, etc. But once you get your eye in and you're calm and steady and pragmatic, these are really important and will really help you out. So if you haven't got a wiring diagram, then do get one, but you need to make sure it's the right one for your model of bike. But let's look at wiring diagrams a bit later. So focusing on my bike, which is the Honda CB200B, I suppose is the best letter to give it, UK model, which is the same model as, I think it's the French, and I'll stop there in case I go wrong, because it's been a bit of a mind meld having a look at it. But on my model of bike, I have this switch, and this switch sits on the top of the headlight bowl, and is how I turn the lights on and off between side light and main lights. And then the handlebar switches are the right hand side has this type of switch. So we have the top kill switch. We have a low and high, it is just low and high, and we then have the start button. And on the left hand side I have my turn signal switch, left and right, and the, if I can get the light onto it, there we are, the horn button. These change, and this exists and doesn't exist depending on your model. And I'm drafting a table which will show which bits are included on the different versions. So let's have a look at the wiring colouring on the different parts. Okay, focusing on the UK version, the bike I've got, and referring to the wiring diagram in the Haynes manual. The white and yellow cable on the Loom, now that plugs into this white cable with a yellow band on it on the switch in the headlight, and the yellow cable from the charger, the alternator, go into this yellow cable on here. We then have the cable that goes from this switching unit, and the one we're focusing on really here is the white, and these then plug into white plugs into, again following on the wiring diagram, white then plugs into your lights, and onwards from there. So these sort of don't really refer or reference back to these cables, as it were. We have lights, we then have the kill switch, I think grey and white, so there's that one there, and the blue, and so some of these are kill, and then the other ones are then lighting and horn function on this. So you don't need to really worry about this switching unit for the UK version. Those white and yellows go into here. Now on the US versions and the CB200T, they don't have this switch unit on the headlight. The switching that happens in here happens either in the right hand switch, and so you'll have a dot, an L for low beam, H for high beam. And then on later models it then switches over to the left hand switch, and this is where you'll have your light switch over here for low and high. there is one of the pains with the CB200 and these earlier bikes is that the charging system is quite weak, and I still need to get my head around the wiring system on the charging. But the alternator sort of has two, we'll call them coils, I don't know if that's the right phrase for it, windings, that sort of sit in each other, and so you have three cables coming out of it. One of those is sort of a common, and then the other one of those wires comes from one of those windings, coils, etc., and the other one comes from the other one, so that when it's actually powering up, one of those wires gets sort of half the energy, and the other one gets the other half of the energy. And there is a workaround about just literally connecting that white yellow cable from the harness and connecting it straight to the yellow cable, which joins both of these together, giving you, in essence, two wires output, one as a common, as it were, and one that joins both those together. And it's possible to see that in the CB200T wiring loom. I'll try and zoom in on the screen to this. So we have the white and yellow coming in from the loom, and then that joins to a cable and then joins straight back to the yellow, making a join straight at the connection from the wiring loom itself. And as you can see in this version with the CB200T, the lighting, headlight dimmer and all that kind of stuff, horn and signalling are all done on the left handlebars. The right handlebar keeps the kill switch and the starter button. Other models and again I'll zoom into this on the screen. Other models then have the left hand switch on the handlebars purely focuses on the turn signals and the horn, and all that light switching then happens in the top in the right hand switch. So you have the kill switch, you have the lights, a dot, low and high, and you have the starter button in the right hand switch. Hopefully we'll have put screen, visuals, graphics on the video as we go through to explain some of that. So in answer to the question that was come forward for the comment in the previous video, you shouldn't really have the white and yellow wire going nowhere. It shouldn't just be hanging loose, as it were. It should go somewhere, either to your switch if it's a UK version, French version, European direct sales, CB200B, question mark on that, in which case it will go to that switch, or it will go to one of these switch units, depending on which way around it goes, or it has a turn back which brings it back into the yellow wire. So hopefully that has helped with your question about having a loose white and green stroke yellow cable. It should go somewhere, it should do something, and also flags up that if you're buying parts, you really need to pay attention to which model you've got, and therefore which set of handlebar switches you get if you're replacing, if you can find them. And it also flags up the issue with your wiring diagrams, and to make sure that you have the correct wiring diagram for your motorbike. Now, I mentioned at the beginning for this section that the Haynes manual wiring diagram is incorrect, and the error is that if you look around all the relevant parts on this, you will find that there is no regulator shown on the wiring diagram at all, and this harks back to the wiring diagram actually in the Honda CB200 workshop manual from Honda. It is missing. And the wiring, the regulator is in this CB200T version, again I'll try and put a graphic on, is up here and should have a yellow, a green and a black wire going to it. And so here we have the yellow, green and black wire, and there should be shown here should be shown the regulator, because it does exist on the bike, but it's not shown in the Haynes manual, and it should sit up in here. There we go. So I really hope that's made some sense, flagged up the differences between the different switching and the different colouring that you've got. Again, stressing that I'm no expert, and I really am sort of rummaging around a little bit in the dark trying to work this out for myself, as when I come to reattach all of this, I really don't want to melt another loom. So moving on from this, and again, do put your comments below. If there's anybody out there that knows more about this than me, then do put any corrections below in the comments. I will then feed that up into the video description if there are corrections, if I've really made a faux pas. So please do feed into that. It is a little bit of a minefield, particularly if you're trying to rebuild a bike, knowing which version you've got. I suppose it doesn't really matter what bits you buy, but it's just cautious when buying this switch for the motorbike with the kill switch, etc., is making sure you get the correct one, and that's quite an important thing, because if you get the wrong one, then it won't have the correct connections. It will be trying to do other things, etc., that your model might not be ready to do. So moving on to tools, but the reason why I needed to get some new tools is that I need to fix and service the indicators. So these are the front indicators for my bike, and you'll notice they've both got an orange tab on them, and that's because they're sort of reclaimed from other bikes. One should have a blue for the right, I think, indicator, and one should have an orange for the left indicator. And the reason why I need to service these is you might be able to make out actually there that the entire housing has in fact broken open, and you can see the bare copper wires in there. So what I need to do is I could put a bit of heat shrink over that if you're not really into doing the wiring to fix that, but this wiring's actually got other breaks in the housing further in and further along. So I've been hunting around trying to find out what I can do for this. Getting replacement parts, not really viable, though they are out there, but they cost a lot of money. So I'm going to rewire them from the light bulb fitting all the way through to the very end. So I had to get a few bits for that, and I'll go grab them now and we can have a quick look. So here's one of the spares, and again this has got really badly cracked, broken wires, etc., and the bowl needs clearing up, etc., but it's fairly good. So I need to replace in my ones the wiring in here. So I need to go from the connection in there for the light bulb through a nice rubber grommet through here, the relevant length, and then the connector, the Japanese bullet connector on the end. And yeah, it's been a bit of a mission, but I have managed to find, so starting at the bowl end, so these are the pads. So that will then replace the little dot you can see inside there that connects to the bulb. I managed to find some of them. Finding this grommet, rubber grommet in here that protects the wire going out has been impossible to find the proper one, but I have managed to find these. So these are from microphone servicing suppliers. Really nice rubber grommet for taking a cable through the small hole in there and out, so hopefully that will do the job on there. And then obviously the bullet connectors. So I've got like a multi-pack, I've had these for ages, etc. So we've got females, males, and then I've also got them in the sort of silver version on there as well. And then I've got the sleeves for them, so the female and the male sleeves to go on there. And then obviously you need wiring. So I've managed to get a variety of wiring at different gauges depending on what I'm doing. I've got some of the thicker ones if we're doing main wiring gauges. I couldn't find sort of the nice little sort of sleeves to go on, but I did manage to find some yellow wiring and some blue wiring, and I've got some of this nice black wiring for replacing these leads. And the sort of the last bit you need really is to connect these ends onto your wiring, like so. And this is where I've run into a bit of an issue, in that the tools that I managed to find to do this, I thought looked pretty good until I started having a practice and a play. And what I was finding was actually that the crimper was in fact not crimping the wires properly and leaving this sharp fold in the metal. I'll put up a picture of some that I was testing earlier on. And so I've ended up having to purchase a couple of the crimpers for this, just to try and find one that does the right job. And so we'll be looking at those tools either in this video or in a following video, depending on how long this one looks out to be. So I'm hoping that the job of actually doing the wiring, now that I've managed to source all these parts, will go fairly swimmingly. I'm hoping. I'm not going to be doing it out here in the garage right now, because right now it is -1, and so it's a little bit nippy out here, and the wires are all hard and difficult to work with and flex, etc. So this will be something that will be coming up in a future video, rewiring these. We'll be doing that, putting that on, and I'm still going to try and see if I can find some of this sort of orange and blue sort of indicator covering to go on these, or I might have to sort of strip some of this orange and blue off and sort of put it in a cup of hot water and stretch it over. So yeah, so there we are. If I think after doing the editing that this video is turning out to be long, we'll leave the tools for a follow-up video, and if that is the case, then I really hope this video has some way been of some help in relation to the switching and the wiring loom and that kind of stuff. Do hit the thumbs up, it really does help. Subscribe to the channel to follow along with the progress on this bike. Do put your comments below. I do read them, and if I've made any major faux pas, then please do correct me. I'm learning on this as I go along, and I will try and dig out links to some of the bits that I've managed to source, etc., in case you're in a similar position to myself and wanting to rebuild some of this stuff. So there we are. Hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Bye.